r/ProRevenge parents attacked me over college funds, so I sued them into bankruptcy. The notification from my bank account made my stomach drop so hard I thought I might throw up right there in the middle of my political science lecture. Insufficient funds for tuition payment, $8,247.50. I stared at my phone screen, reading the message over and over. That was impossible. My college fund had over $40,000 left in it. I'd checked it obsessively every month since freshman year. My grandparents had set it up before they died, and it had been my safety net through 3.5 years at state. I quietly packed my laptop and slipped out of class, my hands shaking as I called the bank. 20 minutes on hold felt like 20 hours. Mr. Chin. Yes, I see the issue here. The account was closed last month. All remaining funds were transferred out on March 15th by the secondary account holders. Secondary account holders. My parents. How much was transferred? I whispered. The final balance was $43,891.47. The campus quad spun around me. I sat down hard on the nearest bench, trying to process what I'd just heard. My parents had taken the last of my college money. Without telling me. With 6 weeks left in my senior year. I called Mom first, my finger trembling as I hit her contact. Oh, honey, you're calling during your classes. Is everything okay? Mom, where's my college fund? The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Your father and I needed to borrow from it temporarily. We're going through a rough patch with the business, and... Borrow? Mom, the account is closed. The bank said you transferred out almost $44,000. Listen, we raised you for 18 years. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. That money, your grandparents would have wanted us to use it to keep the family afloat. You're almost graduated anyway. My vision blurred with rage. I needed that money for this semester. And graduate school applications. You stole from me. Don't you dare use that word with me, young man. We are your parents. We don't steal from you, we make sacrifices for you every single day. If you can't understand that we're all in this together as a family, then maybe you're not as mature as we thought. The line went dead. I sat there staring at my phone for 10 minutes, trying to figure out what reality I'd woken up in. My parents, who'd always preached about responsibility and honesty, had emptied my college fund and were acting like I was selfish for being upset about it. I called the financial aid office next, explaining my situation to a sympathetic advisor who'd helped me navigate scholarships before. The news wasn't good. This late in the semester, emergency funding was virtually non-existent. I could apply for additional loans, but they wouldn't be processed in time for this term's payment deadline. I'm sorry, but if you can't make payment arrangements by Friday, we'll have to drop you from classes. You won't be able to graduate in May. Everything I'd worked for years of maintaining a 3.8 GPA, internships, networking, graduate school acceptances, was crumbling because my parents had decided my future was worth less than whatever financial hole they dug themselves into. That's when I started researching lawyers. The first 3 law firms I called wouldn't even take my case seriously. Family financial disputes are complicated, the receptionist at Morrison & Associates told me. Without clear evidence of fraud or theft, it's usually a civil matter between family members that's difficult to prove. The second firm was more direct. Do your parents have assets worth pursuing? Because if they're genuinely struggling financially, you might win a judgment but never see a dime. By Thursday afternoon, I was desperate. My payment deadline was tomorrow, and I'd been surviving on ramen and whatever free food I could find on campus. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours at a stretch, lying awake calculating and recalculating numbers that never added up to a solution. That's when I found Janet Morrison at Morrison Legal Group, a different firm entirely from the first one I'd called. She specialized in estate and trust litigation, and something in her voice when I explained the situation made me think she actually understood what I was going through. Your grandparents set up this fund specifically for your education, she asked during our phone consultation. Yes. I have all the original paperwork. It explicitly states the money is for my college expenses only. My parents were supposed to be trustees, not beneficiaries. And they transferred the funds to their personal accounts. Every penny. I pulled the bank records this morning. I heard typing on the other end. I'll need to see those records, along with the trust documentation. But preliminarily, this sounds like breach of fiduciary duty at minimum. Potentially conversion, which is the legal term for theft. My heart started beating faster. Someone finally believed this was wrong. What would a case like this cost? My consultation fee is $200. If I take the case, I work on contingency, meaning I get paid when you get paid. But I need you to understand something. If we pursue this, we're not just asking for your money back. We're talking about damages, legal fees, potentially punitive awards. This could easily become a 6-figure judgment. What does that mean for my parents? It means if they don't have 6 figures to pay a judgment, they'll likely have to file for bankruptcy. Their business, their house, their assets, everything becomes fair game for collection. I stared out my dorm window at the campus I might have to leave tomorrow. Students were playing frisbee on the quad, completely oblivious to how fast everything you'd worked for could disappear. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. But don't wait too long. There are statutes of limitations, and evidence can disappear. After we hung up, I tried calling my parents one more time. Maybe there was still a way to fix this without lawyers and lawsuits. Maybe they'd found a way to replace the money, or could at least help me figure out how to stay enrolled. Dad answered this time. We already talked about this with your mother, he said before I could even explain why I was calling. The money's gone. It went to keeping our business from bankruptcy and our house from foreclosure. You're 22 years old, it's time to start solving your own problems instead of expecting handouts. Handouts? It was MY money. For MY education. It was family money, and we used it for family emergencies. End of discussion. Dad, I'm getting dropped from classes tomorrow. I won't graduate. For years of work down the drain because you. Then you'll figure something else out. We did what we had to do to survive. The line went dead again. I sat there holding my phone, staring at Janet Morrison's business card. My parents had made their choice. Now I had to make mine. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the disappointed faces of my professors, the graduate school acceptance letters that would become worthless, the career I planned crumbling into nothing. By 5 a.m., I gave up and walked across campus to the 24-hour diner where I nursed a single cup of coffee for 2 hours, staring at Janet Morrison's business card. At 7:30, I called her office and left a voicemail asking to move forward with the case. She called back within an hour. I need you to come in today with all the documentation you have. Bank statements, the original trust paperwork, any communications with your parents about the money. Can you be here by noon? Actually, I have a problem. I need to go to the bursar's office this morning. Today's my payment deadline, and if I can't work something out. Don't withdraw yet, she said firmly. Let me make a few calls first. Sometimes the threat of legal action can motivate people to find solutions they claimed didn't exist. Hope flickered in my chest. You think my parents might return the money? I think people's attitudes change quickly when they realize they're about to be sued. At 10 a.m., Janet called my father directly. I sat in her office listening to her side of the conversation, watching her expression grow more serious with each exchange. Mr. Chen, I represent your son regarding the educational trust fund. Yes, I understand you believe you had the right to use those funds. No, sir, being a parent doesn't give you legal authority to violate the terms of a trust. Mr. Chen, your son's tuition is due today. We're prepared to file suit this afternoon unless we can reach an immediate resolution. She listened for a long moment, then her eyebrows shot up. Excuse me. Mr. Chen, threatening your son will not help your legal position. No, we will absolutely not, mind our own business. This is our business now. She hung up and turned to me with a grim expression. What did he say? I asked, though her face already told me it wasn't good. He said if you pursue legal action, they'll make sure you regret it. He mentioned contacting your graduate schools to explain what kind of person you really are, and said they have ways to make your life difficult that you haven't even considered. My stomach dropped. I've been accepted to 3 graduate programs, including my dream school at Northwestern. If my parents started calling them with lies or twisted versions of this story, can they actually do that? Sabotage my graduate applications? Legally? It depends what they say and whether it's true. Practically? Yes, they could cause you significant problems. Admissions committees don't want drama, and family legal battles make people nervous. I felt the walls closing in from every direction. Stay quiet and lose my education, or fight back and risk having my future destroyed in different ways. There's something else, Janet continued. I did some research on your parents' business this morning. Chen and Associates Consulting filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection last week. What does that mean? It means they were already in bankruptcy proceedings before they took your money. And it means they lied to you, they didn't take your college fund to prevent bankruptcy. They took it while already in bankruptcy, which makes this significantly more serious legally. The room started spinning. How is that worse? Because using trust funds to pay creditors during bankruptcy proceedings isn't just breach of fiduciary duty. It's potentially criminal fraud. We're not just talking about a civil lawsuit anymore. I stared at her, trying to process what she just said. Criminal fraud. My parents hadn't just betrayed me, they potentially committed a felony using my education money. What happens now? Janet's expression was steel. Now we go to war. Within 2 hours of Janet filing the initial paperwork, my phone started buzzing with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them until a voicemail from my Uncle Mark made my blood run cold. Danny, what the hell are you doing to your parents? Your mom called me crying, saying you're trying to destroy the family. She says you hired some lawyer to steal their house. Call me back right now, we need to talk about this before you do something you can't take back. Then came a text from my cousin Sarah, heard about the lawsuit. Really disappointed in you. Your parents sacrificed everything for you and this is how you repay them. My phone kept buzzing. Aunt Linda. Family friends. Even my high school guidance counselor somehow got my number. The narrative my parents were spinning was already spreading like wildfire through our community. Ungrateful son attacks loving parents with vicious lawsuit over money they desperately needed to survive. None of them knew the truth about the trust fund or the bankruptcy timeline. They just knew that Danny Chen was suing his own parents, and in our tight-knit community, that made me the villain. Janet called at 3 p.m. with an update that made everything worse. I've been reviewing your parents' bankruptcy filing more carefully. The timing is extremely problematic for them legally, but it creates complications for recovery. The court-appointed trustee now has authority over most of their assets. In English, please. Your parents transferred your trust fund to pay business debts that were already protected under bankruptcy proceedings. That's potentially criminal. But since they've already spent the money and transferred other assets to the bankruptcy estate, getting your money back becomes much more complex. I felt sick. So even if we win, we'll win. The law is crystal clear here. But collecting could take years, and we might only recover pennies on the dollar depending on how they've structured their assets. What about my tuition? Today. I got you a 1-week extension by explaining the legal situation to the bursar's office. But Danny, that's all the time they'll give us. If you can't pay by next Friday, you're out. That evening, I tried to study for my constitutional law exam, but I couldn't focus on anything except my imploding life. My study group had been acting weird around me all day, awkward silences, people suddenly remembering they had to be somewhere else. Around 10 p.m., my roommate Jake finally said what everyone was thinking. Dude, is it true you're suing your parents? Because people are saying some pretty harsh stuff about you on social media. I opened Instagram for the first time in days and immediately regretted it. My parents had posted a long, emotional statement about their heartbreak over their son's betrayal during our darkest hour. The comments were brutal. This is what happens when you spoil kids. Suing your own parents is disgusting. They should disown him. Hope he ends up with nothing. Karma. My mother had shared photos of me as a child with captions about wondering where we went wrong and praying our son finds his way back to family values. She tagged extended family members, family friends, even some of my high school teachers. The character assassination was systematic and devastating. Then I saw something that made my heart stop. My parents had posted my graduate school acceptance letters, photos they must have taken from my room during winter break, with the caption, "We're so proud, but we hope higher education doesn't further corrupt our son's moral compass." "Jake," I said slowly, "they're posting my private information online. My graduate school acceptances, details about my academic plans. Is that legal?" He looked uncomfortable. "I don't know, man. But maybe you should call them. Try to work this out. Because this whole situation is getting really ugly, and people are choosing sides." I realized then that my parents weren't just fighting me in court. They were waging a campaign to destroy my reputation, my relationships, and my future prospects while painting themselves as the real victims. Janet had warned me they'd said they could make my life difficult in ways I hadn't considered. I was starting to understand what she meant. The next morning brought a phone call that made my stomach drop even further into the abyss. "Mr. Chin. This is Dean Richardson from Northwestern's Graduate School of Public Policy. I need to speak with you about some concerning information we've received regarding your character and academic standing." I nearly dropped my phone. Northwestern was my dream school, the program I'd been planning my career around for 2 years. "I'm sorry, what kind of information?" "We received a call from someone claiming to be a family friend, expressing concerns about your integrity and suggesting we might want to reconsider your admission offer. They mentioned ongoing legal troubles and questions about your moral character." My parents had actually done it. They'd called my graduate school. "Dean Richardson, I can explain everything. There's been a family financial dispute, but it doesn't affect my academic qualifications or..." "Mr. Chen, we take these matters very seriously. I'm going to need you to submit a written explanation of your current legal situation within 48 hours, along with any relevant documentation. The admissions committee will review everything and make a determination about whether your offer still stands." After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone in disbelief. For years of perfect grades, stellar recommendations, and careful planning, and my parents were systematically destroying it all out of spite. I called Janet immediately. "They're going after my graduate schools. Northwestern wants a written explanation of the legal troubles or they might rescind my acceptance." Damn it. I was afraid they'd escalate like this. "Do you know what exactly they told the school?" "Something about questioning my integrity and moral character." "Janet, if I lose these graduate school spots..." "You won't. We're going to draft a professional response explaining the situation factually. Trust fraud victims aren't exactly rare, and any reasonable admissions committee will understand you're the injured party here." But even as she said it, I could hear the concern in her voice. Graduate programs hated drama, and my parents were creating plenty of it. "There's something else," she continued. "I got a call from your parents' attorney this morning. They want to negotiate." Hope flickered again. "They want to return the money?" "Not exactly. They're offering to drop their social media campaign and stop contacting your schools if you drop the lawsuit. No money changes hands, but they stop actively sabotaging your reputation." I felt rage building in my chest. "So they steal my education fund, then offer to stop destroying my life as a favor? That's their negotiation." It gets worse. Their attorney claims you've been financially abusive toward your parents for years, expecting them to pay for your lifestyle while their business struggled. They're building a counter-narrative that you're an entitled child who's been bleeding them dry. That's completely insane. I've worked part-time jobs since sophomore year. I've barely asked them for anything beyond what the trust fund covered." "I know. But Danny, you need to understand how this looks to outsiders who don't know the legal details. Parents in financial crisis, college kids suing them with an expensive lawyer, it's easy to paint you as the spoiled villain." That afternoon, I tried to focus on my classes, but word had clearly spread across campus. Professor Martinez pulled me aside after constitutional law. "Mr. Chen, I heard you're dealing with some family difficulties. If you need extensions on your final papers or want to discuss incomplete grades..." "I'm fine, Professor. I can handle my coursework." But I wasn't fine. I was falling apart. My concentration was shot, my reputation was in shambles, and my future hung in the balance while my parents played victim on social media. The worst part came that evening when my childhood friend Amy called. "Danny, I've been seeing your mom's posts. She seems really hurt. Is there any way you guys can work this out without lawyers? I mean, they're your parents. Even people who'd known me for years were buying into the narrative that I was the problem. Amy, they stole my college fund. They emptied the account my grandparents set up and spent it on their business debts. But, I mean, isn't family money kind of shared? They raised you and everything." I realized then that my parents had chosen their strategy perfectly. Appeal to traditional family loyalty, paint me as ungrateful, and watch everyone I cared about pressure me to back down. It was working. That night, I made what might have been the biggest mistake of my life. I decided to confront my parents in person. I drove the 2 hours to their house fueled by rage and desperation, arriving just after 9 p.m. Their car was in the driveway, and I could see them through the kitchen window, looking like any normal couple having dinner. The sight made my anger burn hotter. I knocked instead of using my key, some part of me recognizing that I wasn't welcome here anymore. Dad opened the door, and his expression immediately hardened. "What are you doing here? We need to talk. This has gone far enough." "The only thing that's gone far enough is your lawsuit," Mom said, appearing behind him. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but I couldn't tell if it was from crying or fury. "Do you have any idea what you've done to us?" I pushed past them into the living room, the same space where I'd done homework at the coffee table, where we'd watched movies together, where they'd celebrated when I got into Northwestern. Now it felt like enemy territory. "What I've done? You stole my college fund. You called my graduate school. You're trying to destroy my reputation because I dared to ask for my own money back. That money saved our house," Dad snapped. "It kept food on the table. We were going to lose everything. You were already in bankruptcy. Janet found the filing. You took my money after you'd already filed for protection. You didn't save anything, you just stole from me out of spite." Mom's face went white. They hadn't realized I knew about the bankruptcy timeline. How dare you have some lawyer investigating our private business, she whispered. How dare you spend my education fund and then lie about why? The argument escalated faster than I'd expected. Years of resentment poured out, their complaints about my expensive college, my unrealistic graduate school plans, how I'd never appreciated their sacrifices. You've always thought you were better than us, Dad said, his voice getting louder. Too good for the family business, too smart to understand how the real world works. I worked my ass off for 4 years. I maintained a 3.8 GPA while working part-time jobs. I earned those graduate school acceptances, and you're trying to destroy them because you can't handle being held accountable. Accountable? Mom laughed bitterly. We raised you for 18 years. We sacrificed everything for your education, your opportunities, your future. And the first time we need help, you attack us with lawyers like we're strangers. You didn't ask for help. You stole from me and then lied about it. That's when Dad stepped closer, his face inches from mine. You need to drop this lawsuit right now. Tonight. Before you destroy this family permanently. The family was destroyed the moment you decided my future was worth less than your business debts. Drop the lawsuit, Daniel. His voice had changed, lower, more threatening. I'd never heard him use that tone with me before. No. What happened next felt like slow motion. Dad's hand shot out and shoved me hard in the chest, sending me stumbling backward into the bookshelf. Books scattered across the floor as I caught myself. Drop it. Are you insane? I stared at him in shock. My father had never laid a hand on me in my entire life. You're going to destroy everything we've worked for over money we'll pay back when we can. When? You're bankrupt. There is no when. He moved toward me again, and Mom grabbed his arm. Stop it, both of you. But something had snapped in the room. 22 years of being their son, and now we were strangers screaming at each other in a house that no longer felt like home. Get out, Dad said quietly. Get out of our house and don't come back until you've dropped this lawsuit and fired that lawyer. I looked at both of them, really looked. These people who'd raised me, who I'd loved unconditionally, who I'd trusted with everything. They were choosing their pride over my future. Fine, I said, heading for the door. But the lawsuit continues. As I drove away, I saw Mom in the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway crying. I told myself it didn't matter anymore. The call came at 6:47 a.m., jarring me from the first decent sleep I'd gotten in days. Mr. Chen, this is Officer Martinez with campus police. We need you to come to the station immediately regarding a complaint that's been filed against you. My blood turned to ice. What kind of complaint? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you be here within the hour? I threw on clothes and jogged across campus, my mind racing through possibilities. When I arrived at the small campus police office, Officer Martinez, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, gestured for me to sit. We received a call yesterday from your parents claiming you've been harassing and threatening them. They're requesting a restraining order. That's insane. I went to their house once to try to talk. There were no threats. She consulted her notes. According to their statement, you've been aggressively contacting them, making financial demands, and showed up at their home in a volatile state. They claim you became physically aggressive and had to be asked to leave. I felt the room spinning. Officer Martinez, they stole my college fund. I'm suing them to get my education money back. This restraining order is just another way to make me look like the bad guy. I understand there's a civil dispute ongoing. But Mr. Chen, I have to ask, did you have any physical altercation with your father 2 nights ago? The memory of him shoving me into the bookshelf flashed through my mind. But how could I explain that without sounding like I was making excuses? He pushed me, not the other way around. I never touched either of them. She made notes. They've also provided screenshots of what they claim are threatening text messages from you. What messages? I haven't sent any threatening texts. Officer Martinez turned her computer screen toward me. There, in a series of screenshots, were text messages from my phone number to my parents. Messages I'd never sent. You'll regret stealing from me. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of people you really are. This isn't over. You can't hide behind bankruptcy forever. Pay me back or face the consequences. I stared at the screen in complete shock. I never sent these. I swear to you, I never sent any of these messages. Mr. Chen, they're from your phone number. Then someone spoofed my number, or... I don't know how, but I didn't send these. My voice was rising with panic. Officer, you can check my phone right now. These messages aren't in my sent folder because I never sent them. She examined my phone for several minutes, scrolling through my actual message history with my parents. The threatening texts weren't there. This is unusual, she admitted. These screenshots show messages from your number, but they're not in your phone's records. Because I didn't send them. They're fabricating evidence. Officer Martinez looked troubled. I'm not going to process the restraining order today. But Mr. Chen, I need you to understand something. If your parents can demonstrate a pattern of harassment, real or fabricated, it could seriously impact your lawsuit. As I walked back to my dorm, Janet called with news that made my stomach drop even further. Northwestern rescinded your acceptance. I stopped walking. What? I just got off the phone with Dean Richardson. They said after careful consideration of new information regarding your character and ongoing legal troubles, they've decided to withdraw their offer. The new information being lies my parents told them. Probably. But Danny, there's more. I did some digging into your parents' social media campaign. They've been more strategic than we realized. They're not just posting emotional appeals, they're systematically contacting people in your academic and professional network. What do you mean? Your internship supervisor from last summer, professors you've worked with, even the career counselor at your college. They're reaching out privately, expressing concern about your character and suggesting these people might want to reconsider any recommendations or professional relationships. I leaned against the nearest building, feeling physically sick. They're destroying my entire network. It gets worse. They've also contacted the other graduate programs you were accepted to. I expect you'll be hearing from them soon. Sure enough, by afternoon I had voicemails from both Columbia and Georgetown requesting clarification about my current circumstances. That evening, I sat in my dorm room staring at the acceptance letters that might soon become worthless pieces of paper. For years of sacrifice, of perfect grades and careful planning, crumbling because my parents had decided that if they were going down, they'd take me with them. Jake knocked on my door around 10 p.m. Hey, man. There's something you should know. People are talking about withdrawing the nomination for your graduation speech. I've been selected to give one of the student addresses at commencement, an honor I'd worked toward since freshman year. Why? Some parents complained. Said having someone who's suing their own family represent the graduating class sends the wrong message. I laughed bitterly. Even my final college achievement was being stripped away. Jake, what if they're right? What if I'm destroying my entire life over money? Dude, they stole from you. That's not your fault. But as I lay awake that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing more than money. I was losing everything I'd worked for, everyone I cared about, and any chance at the future I'd planned. My parents had turned the entire battle into a war of attrition. And they were winning. The breaking point came during what should have been my criminal justice final exam. I was halfway through an essay on prosecutorial discretion when my phone started buzzing incessantly. I ignored it at first. Professor Williams had a strict no-phone policy, but the vibrations kept coming every few seconds. Something was wrong. When I glanced at the screen, my heart stopped. 17 missed calls from Janet, 6 from numbers I didn't recognize, and a string of text notifications that made my blood run cold. Check the news now. Danny, call me immediately. This is bad. Really bad. Professor Williams noticed me staring at my phone and shot me a warning look, but I couldn't focus on constitutional law anymore. Whatever was happening felt bigger than my final exam. I turned in my half-finished test and rushed outside to call Janet back. Where the hell have you been? She snapped before I could even say hello. Channel 7 ran a story an hour ago. Your parents went to the media. What kind of story? The worst kind. Local family destroyed by ungrateful son's lawsuit. They interviewed your parents in their living room, crying about how their own child is trying to steal their home while they're struggling with bankruptcy. I felt the campus spinning around me. They went on television. It's already gone viral on social media. College student sues bankrupt parents is trending on Twitter. The comments are, Danny, they're brutal. People are calling you every name in the book. My legs gave out and I sat down hard on the library steps. Did they mention the trust fund? The fact that the money was legally mine? Barely. Your mother spent most of the interview talking about sacrificing everything for your education, working multiple jobs to support your expensive lifestyle, and how shocked they were that you'd turn on family during their darkest hour. Your father mentioned the trust fund exactly once, said it was family money that we used for family emergencies. That's not what happened. I know that. You know that. But 60% of viewers don't care about legal details when they see crying parents talking about their heartless son. I pulled up the news station's website on my phone. There it was, a photo of my parents looking devastated in their living room, with a headline that made me want to vomit. Son's lawsuit threatens to make parents homeless. The article was even worse than Janet had described. My mother talked about wondering where we went wrong as parents and praying our son remembers the values we taught him. My father discussed their business struggles and medical bills they'd never mentioned to me. Janet, they're talking about medical expenses. What medical bills? I was wondering the same thing. It's possible they're fabricating additional sympathy, but we'll need to investigate. The problem is, even if they're lying, the damage is done. The story's been picked up by 3 other local stations and 2 newspapers. By evening, my phone was completely unusable. Hundreds of notifications from social media, messages from reporters requesting interviews, and calls from numbers across the country, people who'd seen the story and wanted to share their opinions about what kind of person I was. I turned it off and tried to hide in the library, but even there, people recognized me. Whispered conversations stopped when I walked by. Students pointed and stared. The librarian asked if I was that boy from the news and suggested I might be more comfortable studying elsewhere. My academic advisor, Dr. Peterson, called an emergency meeting the next morning. Her office felt smaller than usual, and she couldn't quite meet my eyes as she spoke. Daniel, I've been getting calls from concerned faculty members. The news coverage has created a difficult situation for the university. Dr. Peterson, that story was completely one-sided. They didn't explain that my parents violated a trust fund, or that they took the money while already in bankruptcy proceedings. I understand there are 2 sides to every story. But the optics are problematic. Several major donors have contacted the administration expressing concerns about the university's association with this situation. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means we need to discuss your options. Your graduation is in 3 weeks, but given the circumstances, we might want to consider a more low-profile arrangement for completing your degree. You're asking me not to walk at commencement. I'm suggesting we explore alternatives that might be better for everyone involved. I walked out of her office feeling completely hollow. My parents hadn't just stolen my money, they'd stolen my graduation, my reputation, and my future. They'd turned me into a pariah with one calculated media appearance. The worst part was knowing this was just the beginning. If they were willing to go on television and lie to millions of people, there was no limit to how far they'd escalate this war. And I was losing every single battle. That night, I discovered they'd created a GoFundMe. Help the Chen family survive their son's lawsuit had raised over $12,000 in less than 18 hours. The description made my blood boil. After 22 years of sacrificing everything for their son's education and dreams, Jim and Linda Chen are facing homelessness due to a vicious lawsuit filed by the child they raised with love and devotion. While struggling with business bankruptcy and medical bills, they made the difficult decision to use family savings to keep their home, only to be attacked by their own son with expensive lawyers demanding money they simply don't have. Please help this loving family survive this heartbreaking betrayal. The comments section was a nightmare of strangers calling for my head. People were sharing the fundraiser across Facebook, Twitter, and local community groups. My parents had monetized their victim narrative, and it was working perfectly. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Janet. Her response came back within minutes: "This changes everything. They're now profiting from defaming you. We can add defamation and fraud to the lawsuit." But even as she strategized our legal response, I knew we were fighting a losing battle. Legal victories took months or years. Public opinion moved at internet speed, and my reputation was being destroyed in real time. The next morning brought worse news. Dr. Peterson called at 7 a.m. "Daniel, I'm sorry to tell you this, but the university has received a formal complaint about your conduct. We're required to open an investigation." "What complaint? From who?" "I can't discuss details, but it involves allegations of harassment and threatening behavior toward family members. Until the investigation concludes, you're suspended from all academic activities." My heart stopped. Suspended? But finals are next week. Graduation is. I know. I'm sorry. The complaint includes documentation that we have to take seriously. Those fake text messages. My parents had sent their fabricated screenshots to the university, and the administration was treating them as evidence of criminal behavior. "Dr. Peterson, I can prove those messages are fake. The timestamps don't match my phone records, and the investigation will examine all evidence." "But Daniel, suspension is mandatory when threats are alleged. It's university policy." After she hung up, I sat in my dorm room staring at the walls that had been my home for 4 years. Everything was falling apart faster than I could fight it. My roommate Jake knocked hesitantly. "Dude, I hate to ask this, but my parents are coming for graduation next week. They saw the news story and they're uncomfortable staying in the same hotel if you're going to be around." Even Jake, my friend for 3 years, was distancing himself. "Don't worry," I said quietly. "Looks like I won't be graduating anyway." The university investigation moved with devastating efficiency. Within 48 hours, they'd interviewed my parents via phone, reviewed their evidence, and scheduled a disciplinary hearing for the following week. I wouldn't be able to graduate until the matter was resolved. Janet tried to expedite our lawsuit, but the courts moved on their own timeline. Meanwhile, my parents' media campaign continued expanding. They'd done follow-up interviews with 2 more news stations, each time adding new details about their ungrateful son and financial abuse they'd endured. The GoFundMe was approaching $20,000. That weekend, I made the mistake of walking through downtown near campus. A woman in her 50s approached me outside the coffee shop where I'd spent countless hours studying. "You should be ashamed of yourself," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Suing your own parents while they're struggling. I donated to their fund, and I hope they take you for everything you're worth." Heads turned. People started recognizing me. Someone took out their phone to record. I walked away as quickly as possible, but the damage was done. I was now a public figure, the villain in a story that had spread far beyond our small college town. My parents had weaponized the court of public opinion, and they were winning decisively. The disciplinary hearing was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m., the same day my criminal justice professor was holding makeup finals. I'd already missed 3 exams due to the suspension, and Professor Williams had made it clear that incomplete grades would prevent graduation even if the investigation cleared me. I was trapped in an impossible situation: attend my hearing to fight for my academic future, or take my finals to salvage what was left of my GPA. I couldn't do both. Janet met me outside the administration building that morning, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen her. "We have a problem. Your parents' attorney filed an emergency motion yesterday requesting that your lawsuit be dismissed due to harassment and intimidation of the plaintiffs." "Based on what evidence?" "The same fabricated text messages, plus new claims that you've been stalking them online and coordinating attacks through social media." She showed me her tablet. "They're claiming that our lawsuit is nothing but retaliation for their decision to protect themselves with a restraining order." I stared at the legal documents, trying to process how everything had gotten twisted so completely. So they steal my money, lie about it publicly, and now they're the ones claiming harassment. It gets worse. They've also filed a countersuit. My blood turned to ice. For what? Intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation of character, and alienation of family relationships. They're seeking damages for emotional trauma caused by your lawsuit, plus compensation for the financial harm to their reputation. They're suing me for suing them? Essentially, yes. And Danny, their countersuit includes a request for attorney's fees. If they win, you could end up owing them money on top of losing your original case. The hearing room was smaller than I'd expected, just a conference table surrounded by 5 chairs. Dean Richardson sat at the head, flanked by Dr. Peterson and 2 other administrators I didn't recognize. The atmosphere felt more like a criminal trial than an academic proceeding. "Mr. Chen," Dean Richardson began, "we're here to review allegations of threatening and harassing behavior toward family members. Before we proceed, do you have legal representation?" "I'm representing myself for this hearing." Janet couldn't participate in university proceedings, leaving me to navigate this alone. "Very well. We've received documentation from your parents indicating a pattern of threatening communications and aggressive behavior. Specifically, a series of text messages sent from your phone number containing threats of retaliation and financial revenge. They projected the fake screenshots on a small screen. Seeing them blown up in official proceedings made them look even more damning. I need to state clearly for the record that I did not send those messages. I can provide my actual phone records showing they don't exist in my message history." Dr. Peterson looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Chen, while we understand disputes over evidence authenticity, the university must take threats seriously regardless of their origin. But if they're fabricated?" "The concern," Dean Richardson interrupted, "is the broader pattern of behavior. Your parents have provided additional evidence of harassment, including documentation of your legal actions against them and testimony about your aggressive visit to their home." I felt the room tilting. My legal actions aren't harassment. I'm trying to recover money that was stolen from a trust fund. And I visited their house once to try to resolve this without lawyers. "Mr. Chen, we're not here to adjudicate your family's financial disputes. We're here to determine whether your actions constitute a violation of the university's code of conduct regarding threatening behavior. The hearing lasted 90 minutes. They grilled me about every detail of my interactions with my parents, my motivations for the lawsuit, and my intentions regarding future contact. Every answer I gave seemed to reinforce their narrative that I was an unstable student lashing out at family members. The most devastating moment came when they read a statement my parents had submitted. We are heartbroken that our son has chosen this path of aggression and legal intimidation. Despite our unconditional love and support throughout his education, he has responded to our family's financial crisis with threats and lawsuits. We fear for our safety and emotional well-being. We are requesting that the university take appropriate action to protect us from further harassment by someone we raised with nothing but love and devotion. Reading those words in an official university proceeding felt like being stabbed repeatedly. These people who'd raised me, who I'd loved unconditionally, were systematically destroying my life while claiming to be the victims. Mr. Chen, given the seriousness of these allegations, the committee needs time to deliberate. You'll remain suspended pending our decision, which will be delivered by Friday. As I walked out, Dr. Peterson caught up with me in the hallway. Daniel, off the record, you might want to consider withdrawing from the university voluntarily. If this goes on your permanent record. Are you saying I should give up my degree? I'm saying that sometimes cutting your losses is the wisest course. There are other schools, other opportunities. This situation has created too much damage to your reputation here. That afternoon, I missed my makeup final in criminal justice. Professor Williams had been clear that no exceptions would be made, regardless of the circumstances. My 4-year perfect attendance record, my careful relationship building with faculty, my academic achievements, all worthless now. I spent the evening in Janet's office, watching her prepare for what felt like an increasingly hopeless legal battle. They're playing this perfectly, she admitted. Every move we make, they counter with more publicity and more victim narrative. The restraining order makes you look dangerous. The countersuit makes them look defensive. The university suspension makes you look unstable. So what do? We prove they committed fraud. We document every lie, every fabricated piece of evidence, every false statement to the media. And we hope a judge cares more about facts than public opinion. But even as she said it, I could see the doubt in her eyes. My parents had turned this into a public relations war, and they were destroying me one headline at a time. The bombshell came in the form of a phone call from my bank at 8:23 a.m. on Wednesday. Mr. Chen, we need to discuss some unusual activity on your account. Someone attempted to make several large withdrawals yesterday using your debit card information. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. What kind of withdrawals? 3 separate attempts totaling $2,847 from ATMs across town. The transactions were declined due to insufficient funds, but we flagged your account for potential fraud. Do you still have possession of your debit card? I checked my wallet. The card was there, exactly where it should be. Yes, I have my card. I didn't make any withdrawals yesterday. We're issuing you a new card and investigating the fraudulent attempts. We'll also need you to come in and file a formal report. As I hung up, a sick realization crept over me. The timing was too convenient. My parents were systematically attacking every aspect of my life, my reputation, my education, my legal standing. Now someone was trying to drain what little money I had left. Janet's reaction when I called her was immediate and furious. They're escalating to financial sabotage now. Danny, this is criminal behavior. Bank fraud, identity theft, we need to get the police involved. But I can't prove it was them. The hell we can't. I'm hiring a private investigator today. If your parents are behind this, we'll find evidence. But even as she strategized, I knew the damage was already done. My bank account was frozen pending investigation, leaving me with exactly $37 in cash and no way to access funds for food, gas, or basic necessities. The university's decision came that afternoon via email, delivered with the cold efficiency of institutional bureaucracy. After careful review of all evidence and testimony, the Student Conduct Committee has determined that Mr. Daniel Chen violated university policies regarding harassment and threatening behavior toward family members. Mr. Chen is hereby expelled from the university effective immediately. All academic credits for the current semester are forfeit. This decision is final and not subject to appeal. I read it 3 times before the words sank in. Expelled. For years of perfect grades, leadership positions, academic honors, erased with a single email. I wouldn't graduate. I wouldn't walk across the stage. I wouldn't even get credit for my final semester. My parents had won completely. Jake was packing when I got back to the dorm. His parents had arrived early for what should have been my graduation weekend, and he couldn't quite meet my eyes as he folded clothes into his suitcase. I'm really sorry, man. This whole situation is just. I know. I started throwing my own belongings into boxes, trying to figure out where I was even supposed to go. The dorm closed in 3 days, and I had no home to return to. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, saw the news about your expulsion. Maybe now you'll understand that actions have consequences. Drop the lawsuit and we can start rebuilding our family. It wasn't signed, but I knew who'd sent it. That evening, Janet called with news that should have felt like victory but somehow felt hollow. The private investigator found something. Your parents have been working with a local PR firm, Hartwell Communications. They've been coordinating the entire media campaign, including the GoFundMe and the social media strategy. They hired professionals to destroy my reputation. It gets better. Hartwell specializes in crisis management and narrative control. Their client list includes politicians, CEOs, and other people trying to spin major scandals. Your parents didn't just go to the media randomly, they orchestrated a professional character assassination campaign. I should have felt vindicated. This was proof of their manipulation, their calculated destruction of my life. Instead, I felt empty. Learning that my parents had hired professionals to systematically ruin me somehow made it worse than if they just acted out of desperation or anger. The good news is this gives us massive leverage in court. Professional defamation campaigns, coordinated fraud, identity theft, we're talking about serious damages now. But as I sat in my half-empty dorm room, surrounded by boxes containing the remnants of my college life, I wondered what exactly we'd be winning. My education was gone. My future was destroyed. My family was gone forever. Even total victory in court wouldn't give me back the life my parents had systematically demolished. The private investigator's full report arrived the next morning, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Your parents didn't just hire Hartwell Communications, Janet explained over the phone. They'd been planning this systematic destruction for weeks. The PR firm helped them create fake social media accounts to amplify negative comments about you, coordinated the timing of media appearances for maximum impact, and even coached them on which heartbreaking details to emphasize. I stared at the detailed timeline in the report. While I'd been desperately trying to save my education, my parents had been meeting with crisis management professionals, planning exactly how to destroy my credibility and turn public opinion against me. There's more. The firm also helped them fabricate additional evidence of your supposed harassment. Those fake text messages. They used a service that spoofs phone numbers to send messages that appear to come from your number but don't show up in your actual phone records. So they didn't just lie to the media, they manufactured evidence to get me expelled. Exactly. And Danny, the bank fraud attempts. The investigator traced them to ATMs near Hartwell Communications office. Someone with access to your personal information tried to drain your account on the same day your parents met with their PR team. My hands were shaking as I processed this. My parents hadn't just betrayed me, they'd hired professionals to help them commit fraud and identity theft while systematically destroying every aspect of my future. The really damning part, Janet continued, is the GoFundMe. The investigator found email exchanges between your parents and Hartwell discussing monetizing the sympathy narrative and maximizing donation potential through strategic emotional appeals. They've raised over $32,000 now. $32,000. More than enough to have prevented this entire nightmare if they'd just returned my college fund instead of stealing it. What happens now? Now we have them dead to rights on multiple felonies. Wire fraud, identity theft, defamation with professional coordination. This isn't just a civil case anymore. This is criminal. But even as Janet outlined our strengthened legal position, I felt hollow. The university's expulsion was final. My graduate school acceptances were gone. My reputation in our community was destroyed beyond repair. Even if we won everything in court, I couldn't get back what really mattered. That afternoon, I got a call from Northwestern's Dean Richardson, not my parents' school, but the graduate program I'd lost. Mr. Chen, I wanted to reach out personally. We've been following the developments in your situation, and some concerning information has come to light. My heart jumped. Maybe someone had finally realized the truth about what my parents had done. We received additional communications from people claiming to represent your family's interests. However, our IT department flagged these messages as potentially fraudulent. The timing and coordination suggests a deliberate campaign rather than genuine concern from community members. Dean Richardson, are you saying you think the complaints about me were fake? I'm saying we may have acted hastily in rescinding your admission. Given the new information available, the admissions committee would like to reconsider your application for next year's program. It was the first good news I'd received in weeks, but it felt bittersweet. Next year's program meant starting over, rebuilding everything from scratch. And it didn't address the bigger problem. I still had no undergraduate degree to qualify for graduate school. I appreciate that, but there's a complication. I was expelled from my undergraduate program. I don't actually have a bachelor's degree anymore. The silence on the other end stretched uncomfortably long. I see. That does present a significant obstacle. Mr. Chen, if you're able to resolve your undergraduate situation, please contact us immediately. What's been done to you appears to be deeply unjust. After he hung up, I realized this was my parents' most devastating victory. Even people who believed me, who saw through their lies, couldn't help me now. The damage to my academic record was permanent. Janet called again that evening with news that should have felt like vindication. The district attorney's office wants to meet with us tomorrow. The evidence of coordinated fraud and identity theft is strong enough that they're considering criminal charges against your parents. Criminal charges. Wire fraud alone carries up to 20 years in federal prison. Add in the identity theft, the fabricated evidence, and the organized defamation campaign, we're talking about serious felony territory. I should have felt satisfied. After everything they'd done to destroy my life, my parents were finally facing real consequences. Instead, I felt sick. The meeting with the district attorney felt surreal. Assistant DA Rebecca Torres was younger than I'd expected, probably only a few years older than me, but she had the kind of sharp intensity that made it clear why she'd risen quickly in the prosecutor's office. Mr. Chen, I'll be direct with you. We have enough evidence to pursue felony charges against your parents. The coordinated fraud, identity theft, and fabricated evidence constitute a clear pattern of criminal behavior. Janet leaned forward. What kind of timeline are we looking at? If we move forward, we'd file charges within the week. Wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, your parents would be looking at significant prison time if convicted. I stared out the window of the prosecutor's office, watching normal people go about their normal lives. None of them were sitting in meetings deciding whether to send their parents to prison. There's something else, Torres continued. The university situation. If we can prove the evidence used in your expulsion was fabricated, that's fraud against an educational institution, another felony. We could potentially force them to reverse their decision. My heart jumped despite everything. Getting my degree back, graduating after all. But, she added, pursuing criminal charges means this becomes a public prosecution. Media attention, court proceedings, your parents potentially going to prison. There's no going back once we file. After we left the DA's office, Janet and I sat in her car for 20 minutes without saying anything. Finally, she broke the silence. You don't have to decide today. But Danny, you need to understand, this might be your only shot at getting your life back. That evening, I made the mistake of checking my parents' GoFundMe page. It was now at $41,000, with hundreds of new comments from strangers expressing outrage at my cruelty and promising to pray for this heartbroken family. The latest update from my parents made my stomach turn. We are overwhelmed by the love and support from our community during this devastating time. Our son has now escalated his attacks, and we have learned that he may be pursuing criminal charges against us for using family money during our crisis. We never imagined the child we raised would try to have his own parents arrested. Please continue to pray for our family and for our son's heart to heal. They were already spinning the potential criminal charges as further evidence of my cruelty. And judging by the comments, people were buying it completely. Lock this kid up instead of his parents. What kind of monster tries to put their mom and dad in prison? Those parents should disown him completely. He's pure evil. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize with our local area code. Danny. This is Mrs. Rodriguez, your third-grade teacher. I just wanted you to know that some of us remember the sweet little boy you used to be. Whatever's happened in your family, there are people who still believe in you. I almost broke down crying. One single person in our entire community still thought I might be telling the truth. Thank you, I whispered. Your parents are hurting right now, but hurting people sometimes do terrible things. Don't let their pain destroy your future, sweetheart. After she hung up, I realized the impossible position I was in. If I pursued criminal charges, I might get my degree back and see justice done, but I'd be forever known as the person who sent his parents to prison. If I didn't, they'd continue their campaign until there was nothing left of my reputation or future. Janet texted me late that night, DA wants an answer by Monday. Whatever you decide, I support you. I stared at the message, knowing that Monday's decision would determine whether I became the person who fought back against injustice or the one who destroyed his family forever. Both choices felt like losing. Monday morning arrived with a phone call that changed everything. Mr. Chen, this is Detective Sarah Kim with the fraud unit. We need to talk immediately. Your parents just filed a police report claiming you've been embezzling money from their business accounts. I nearly dropped my phone. That's impossible. I don't have access to their business accounts. I've never even worked for their company. According to their report, you've been using your position as their son to access financial information and transfer funds without authorization. They're claiming you've stolen over $60,000 to pay for your expensive lifestyle and legal fees. The room started spinning. Even knowing everything they'd already done, this level of audacity was breathtaking. Detective Kim, they're the ones who stole from me. I'm meeting with the DA this afternoon about pressing charges against them for fraud and identity theft. I understand there's a complex family situation here. But Mr. Chen, I need you to come in for questioning this afternoon. And I'd strongly advise bringing your attorney. After I hung up, I called Janet in a panic. They're trying to have me arrested for embezzling from their business. How is that even possible? It's a preemptive strike, she said grimly. They know we're meeting with the DA today, so they're trying to flip the script. If you're facing criminal charges, it undermines our entire case and makes you look like the real criminal. But they don't have any evidence because I never took anything from their business. Danny, after everything we've seen, do you really think they won't fabricate evidence for this too? By noon, the new accusations were already spreading online. Someone had leaked the police report to the same news station that ran the original story. The headline made me physically sick, college student who sued parents now accused of business embezzlement. The reporter had interviewed my parents again, and they looked even more devastated than before. We didn't want to believe our own son could steal from us, my mother sobbed on camera. But when we started investigating our financial records after his lawsuit, we discovered money missing from our business accounts. Money we desperately needed to save our company and our home. My father looked directly into the camera with an expression of profound betrayal. We raised him to be honest and ethical. To discover he's been stealing from us while accusing us of stealing from him. It's heartbreaking beyond words. The GoFundMe page updated within hours, new devastating discovery, our son has been stealing from our business. The donation total jumped to $53,000. Janet met me at the police station, and her expression was darker than I'd ever seen it. I got a preview of their evidence from the detective. It's sophisticated, bank transfer records, electronic signatures, even security footage that allegedly shows you at their business office. I've never been to their business office. Not once in my entire life. I know. But someone who looks like you was there, captured on security cameras, apparently accessing their financial systems. The timestamps correspond exactly with the alleged thefts. My blood turned to ice. They hired someone to impersonate me. That's my theory. Remember, they're working with professional crisis management specialists. Staging evidence is probably just another service they provide. The questioning lasted 3 hours. Detective Kim was thorough but fair, walking through every detail of the alleged embezzlement. The evidence was damning, transaction records showing transfers from my parents' business account to various personal accounts, all apparently authorized using my name and personal information. Mr. Chen, these transfers total $62,000 over the past 6 months. The electronic signatures match samples of your signature from university records. Detective, I didn't make any of these transfers. I didn't even know my parents' business was struggling until they took my college fund. This is all fabricated. The security footage shows someone matching your description accessing the business premises on 3 occasions. She showed me the footage on her computer. The figure was definitely male, approximately my height and build, wearing a baseball cap and hoodie. The image quality was poor enough that facial identification was impossible, but the person's general appearance was close enough to mine to be convincing. That's not me, I said firmly. I can provide alibi information for those dates. We'll need that documentation immediately. Janet took over. Detective, this is clearly part of a coordinated campaign to discredit our client. We have evidence that his parents hired professional crisis management specialists to fabricate evidence and coordinate media attacks. I'm aware of your pending case with the DA's office. But Ms. Morrison, the evidence here is substantial. Electronic records, security footage, documented patterns of financial access, this goes well beyond media manipulation. As we left the station, Janet was already making calls to our private investigator. We need to prove that security footage was staged. Hire experts to analyze the digital signatures. Document everything about the supposed business visits. This is their most sophisticated attack yet. That evening, the local news ran another story, embezzlement suspect to meet with DA about pressing charges against parents. The irony was laid on thick, the reporter questioned how someone facing their own criminal charges could credibly accuse their parents of wrongdoing. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Drop everything now and maybe the embezzlement charges disappear too. Keep pushing and see how much worse this gets. I showed the message to Janet. They're offering to trade fabricated criminal charges for dropping legitimate ones. It's extortion. So what do? We go to war completely. No more half measures, no more hoping for reasonable solutions. Tomorrow we meet with the DA and demand full prosecution on every charge: fraud, identity theft, extortion, conspiracy. And we prove that every piece of evidence against you was manufactured. As I tried to sleep that night, I realized my parents had backed me into the final corner. They'd escalated beyond civil lawsuits and media attacks into outright criminal fraud designed to destroy my freedom along with my future. There was no middle ground left. Either they were going to prison, or I was. The meeting with DA Torres the next morning felt like walking into the final battle of a war I never wanted to fight. Mr. Chen, she said, sliding a thick folder across her desk, we've had a breakthrough. Our forensic accountants worked through the night analyzing the embezzlement evidence your parents provided. My heart pounded as she opened the file. Every single transaction they claim you made was digitally backdated. The metadata shows these records were created last week, not over the past 6 months. Your parents literally manufactured an entire financial crime and tried to frame you for it. Janet leaned forward. What about the security footage? Deepfake technology. Our digital forensics team found compression artifacts and facial mapping inconsistencies. Someone paid serious money to create fake surveillance footage of your client committing crimes that never happened. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by rage. My parents had tried to have me imprisoned with completely fabricated evidence. There's more, Torres continued. The FBI got involved overnight. Creating fake evidence to frame someone for federal crimes crosses into domestic terrorism territory. Your parents and their PR firm are looking at decades in prison. 2 hours later, I watched through Torres's office window as FBI agents arrested my parents at their home. The same news crews that had painted them as sympathetic victims now filmed them being led away in handcuffs. The truth came out like a dam bursting. Hartwell Communications had been running similar schemes for years, helping wealthy clients destroy enemies through coordinated fraud and character assassination. My parents weren't just their clients, they were part of a federal investigation into organized defamation campaigns. The GoFundMe was frozen and its funds seized as evidence. The fake social media accounts were traced back to professional troll farms. Even the concerned community members who had contacted my schools were paid actors following scripts. My phone rang as I watched the arrest footage. Dean Richardson from my university. Mr. Chen, in light of the FBI's findings, the university is immediately reversing your expulsion. We're also expediting your graduation. You'll receive your diploma this Friday in a private ceremony. Northwestern called an hour later, fully reinstating my graduate school acceptance with a formal apology. The news story that evening was everything the previous coverage wasn't. Local parents orchestrated elaborate fraud scheme to frame their own son. The reporter interviewed neighbors who admitted they'd found my parents' story suspicious but hadn't wanted to speak up. Mrs. Rodriguez, my third-grade teacher, gave a statement that made me cry. I knew that boy's character. Real character doesn't disappear, no matter how much someone tries to destroy it. The final twist came when federal investigators discovered the real reason my parents had taken my college fund. They hadn't been saving their business, they'd been funding their own fraudulent scheme. The $60,000 they claimed I'd embezzled. That was exactly how much they paid Hartwell Communications to destroy my life. 6 months later, I was starting my first semester at Northwestern when Janet called with the sentencing news. Your father got 12 years federal prison. Your mother got 8. The PR firm got shut down completely. Turns out they'd been running similar schemes against dozens of victims. I felt empty rather than vindicated. What about the money? Full restitution plus damages. The court awarded you $340,000 total, your original college fund, plus compensation for the destroyed educational opportunities, emotional distress, and punitive damages. I graduated from Northwestern 2 years later with highest honors. At the ceremony, Mrs. Rodriguez was in the audience, beaming with pride. My parents never contacted me again, even after their release. Some bridges, once burned completely, can never be rebuilt. But I learned something important. Sometimes the only way to save your future is to let go of people who are determined to destroy it, even when those people are family. The money they tried so hard to keep. I donated half to a legal aid fund for students facing family financial fraud. Justice, I learned, isn't about revenge. It's about making sure the truth wins, no matter how much it costs.